NNF After Dark is brought to you by Sandpiper Vacations. For all of your vacation planning needs, visit www.sandpipervacations.com. Tell them that the No New Friends podcast sent you. And now, welcome to NNF After Dark with your host, the scumbag reselling hoarder himself, Chris. Chris is going to take you through the previous episode and maybe even say some bad words, plus celebrity interviews, other podcast interviews, and much more. And now, here he is, the scumbag reselling hoarder himself, Chris Yob.
Wow. Thank you for the insane introduction there, Scott. Like Scott said, this is No New Friends After Dark, where we not only pull back the curtain, we yank it off the hinges. We rip that thing, we put it in the shredder, we show you, we expose ourselves, right, Scott? I think that's the best way to put it. We expose ourselves to the listeners. We take a deep dive right in between the legs of our prior episode. So actually, we're not even going to dive into our prior episode. We're going to go in, I guess, a couple episodes ago.
I felt really uncomfortable with that, but that's okay.
You guys take everything the wrong way. Oh my God, I'm being totally innocent here. So it has occurred to me that you have been introducing Sarah as the food truck critic.
Yeah.
And it has occurred to me that I think only you, me, and maybe one other person on this earth know why, and maybe her whole family. Know why you call her that. So Sarah, I want to give you the floor and kind of explain why the hell is Scott even calling you that?
Real quick before she does that. So yeah, in the last episode, episode 140, you can put it in any hole or whatever I named it with Larry Hankin. Yeah, with a lot of food truck jokes, and then I realized afterwards we never talked about that on air. That was a lot of bonus content for our Patreon members. So Sarah, take it away.
Oh, well, it started off on a sunny afternoon. So we
picture it, Deltona, 2023.
Yes. We'd been to this food truck a couple of times before. We just kind of discovered it one day. It looked amazing. Lewis and I had just gotten back from Puerto Rico, so we were still, in the mood for Puerto Rican food, and we kept going to the same place over and over again, and we saw it.
Did you go to Taco Bell?
No.
Oh my God.
We went to this amazing Puerto Rican bakery in Deltona, actually. Nothing compared to Taco Bell, but they try their best. And we saw
that was so bad. That was so bad. Lewis just shot at my house. Sorry.
That another racist thing? I mean, oh my gosh. What do you assume he has a gun, Scott? Oh my gosh. Goodness gracious. We're 3 minutes into After Dark.
We're
3 minutes in. Please go on, Sarah.
I know. This is our first After Dark and probably our last.
Gosh.
What the hell is going on?
I'm waiting for a comment from him.
He's going to unplug the computer and say, okay, you're done with that podcast.
It.
Have fun with your women's podcast, the women's edition.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So we ended up going to this food truck a couple of times, and it was fantastic. And one day we decided the girls have a tradition every Wednesday when we pick them up from school. We do Wawa Wednesday, and they wanted to skip it. Yes. It's a whole thing.
Scott has Wawa Wednesday like every single day.
Yeah. Every day is Wawa Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well,
I like the quesadilla. That's like my favorite thing. The quesadilla. I throw some jalapenos in there. It's spicy on the way down and the way out.
Now, Sarah, you're real quick before you go on with your story. You're white, but you're married to someone who is of Hispanic descent. Now, so I think you're an expert on this. Is there anything whiter than ordering a quesadilla at Wawa?
No,
just plead the fifth on this one and continue.
I plead the fifth.
It's a trap. It's a Star Wars reference.
We enjoy our Wawa Wednesday. It's fantastic, and
well, it's an alliteration, and we love alliteration.
Yes, we do. And I also have to limit it to one day a week because it would be an everyday occurrence if we would allow it to be. So we have to limit it to the one day. So the alliteration day is perfect. So we get in the car after picking up the girls from school, and they said, you know what? Skip Wawa Wednesday. Let's go to the food truck. Fantastic. So we end up there, and the girls ordered tripleta fries, which is
Wait, can you wait? Say that again. What is it?
Tripleta.
Tripleta?
Tripleta. Tripleta.
Hold on.
Tripleta.
You're starting to sound more Puerto Rican than you are Jewish. I need you to add some phlegm to your talk.
I'm going to be honest.
I tried to get that out of my system. Okay, that's a story for a whole nother day. But my dad is from Montreal, and they begged me to take Spanish because I live in Florida, and I ended up taking French because my dad speaks French, and they laughed in my face when I married a Puerto Rican man.
There's so much going on.
There really is. There really is. There's
anyone ever calls you racist, like they just burst into flames. Like there's just
Sarah's like the food court at the mall. Like what is going on?
Which I will never visit. Probably. It reminds me of the food truck.
This should have been in the main episode, because then she could just be Food Court Sarah. It would be a very short nickname.
Ours has totally died out, so I couldn't give you any content from our own.
That's embarrassing.
Well,
I'd have to go to Stanford, and we know how that ended.
Oh,
last episode.
You don't know.
I know.
Speaking of which, half that mall is like closed. It's
is
like,
it really?
Well, the downstairs is all closed. It's like the upstairs is kind of open. There's a couple things open here and there. Downstairs is like The Walking Dead or Dawn of the Dead. Because Dawn of the Dead, I think, was in a mall.
It was.
I probably haven't been there in.
Neither was anybody else.
Well,
exactly.
It's probably been at least 2.5, almost 3 years, because when our youngest was in VPK, she did a half a year, or did a half a day. And then we would bring her to the mall to just kind of kill time, walk around, go to the food court, whatever. And we didn't have that problem. So
I hope you're happy. You killed them all.
Yeah. Oh, poor mall, because the one in my town is also dying out too. So I guess it is a trend.
You gotta go.
There's a lot of things dying in your town. You've got wives killing husbands in the hospital because they're old and sick. You got malls dying.
It's Daytona Beach. What can I say? There's so much content just in my one little town.
There's actually a committee in Daytona Beach. God, I wish my wife was here. It's like they developed a committee just to say yes to things. Because it's really hard to pass anything in Daytona. It's like the Do It committee.
Scott's trying to get his wife on that committee. The Do It committee, count me in. Say yes to anything. Sign her up.
It's like the Do Good committee. I don't know. Continue with your story, and then I'll tell you what the name of the committee.
Tripletas.
I'm surprised you don't know that.
Yeah, I actually never heard that's Puerto Rican.
Well, my Puerto Rican husband says
maybe that's the issue. Maybe it wasn't. maybe a Dominican was serving you, and it's like, it's Puerto Rican. I'm gonna give him some food poisoning.
Maybe the one white person
down there, but that Dominicans and Puerto Ricans don't like each other up here.
No, it's like, well,
is it universal? Lewis, comment. Is it universal?
It's a baseball thing. That's because Puerto Rico says they have the best baseball players. Dominican Republic said they have the best. I think it's
so much deeper than that.
Yeah, there's a lot of baseball bats involved, Scott. But
was there a war or something?
That just added to it, I suppose.
Yeah, Scott, you're just so white. Just it's a baseball thing. Yeah, it's a baseball thing. That's why. They just want to know who the best baseball player is. Yeah, Google it. Ask Jeeves it, Scott. Okay,
ask Jeeves.
So anyway, back to the tree.
All right. So we go, and I get my empanadas. I have to get them everywhere.
Oh, by the way, the Committee of Doing is what it's called, and it's in Gainesville.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little
close.
Farther away.
And it's the building department. Continue.
Where was I? So the girls ordered tripleta fries, which looked amazing, smelled amazing. It had pork and beef and chicken, but that's where the Jew in me comes in. All right. I don't eat pork very often. So I'm eating this.
So wait, you don't eat bacon?
Okay, wait. That's where I draw the
line. Meat and cheese?
I'm very Jewish until it comes to bacon.
I am not kosher. I'll put it that way. I was never raised in a kosher household, but I don't eat ham. I don't eat pork. I like bacon, very, very crispy. I like it on the side with my breakfast. I don't want it on a burger. I don't want bacon bits on my salad. Like, I don't want anything like that. Just it's on the side as a breakfast meat, basically. So I'm diving into these fries. They're amazing. And I'm eating the greasiest empanada I have ever had in my entire life. And I get home, and about 2 hours later, I'm sitting on the couch. I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling great right now. Feeling a little nauseous. I don't know what's happening. At this point, I have to grab the trash can. So I know it's getting serious.
Oh, man.
Then Scott is texting me.
Hold on. I forgot what we were talking about. I forgot this whole story was about the food truck.
Oh, yeah. It's in depth.
Wow.
It's quite a story.
How many Bud Lights are you in? My goodness gracious.
I'm trying to not slur my words, but that's fine. So Scott keeps texting me about the episode that night, and I'm all in. I'm like, yes, this is what's happening. I'm going to be there. It's going to be great.
Oh, yeah, because I had a feeling Mary was not going to be there.
Yeah, we were talking about it was the Valentine's Day episode. It was going to be great.
So I'm like, you have to be it's going to be you and me, and like it has to be you and me leading this episode. Chris is going to kind of be, what Chris does. Yes.
I'm pretty sure you said to me, like, I'm just going to keep passing stuff off to you. It's going to be great.
Yes.
So I felt the pressure at that point in multiple parts of my body. It was awful. So then I end up in the bathroom. I am just throwing up. I'm puking my brains out. And I have not had this happen probably since I was 18 and got alcohol poisoning. So it was awful.
We now have our next episode of NNF After Dark planned. Sarah and her alcohol poisoning.
That was a lot as well. I learned a lot during that's for a different episode. So anyways, I keep losing track of where I am.
Welcome to the No New Friends podcast After Dark.
So I end up basically throwing up for a total of 15 hours. I mean, at one point I got into bed. I thought I was fine. Actually, while Lewis was recording with you guys that night, I was in the bathtub in the girls' bathroom, and I couldn't move. Like, bathtub, warm water with the trash can next to me. It was awful. And when he was finished recording, I heard him say, okay, guys, have a good night, whatever. I text him, you got to come save me. All right. I don't have a towel. I don't have anything. Like, I am just dead. I thought I was going to pass out in the water. So I make it to bed for about an hour, maybe 2, end up in the walk-in closet, which is close to the toilet for if I have to continue puking. And
I feel like this is an alcohol related story, not
absolutely
necessarily
not.
Food truck.
It felt like it, but absolutely. And I've never gotten food poisoning before. So
I know you like to pre mimosa instead of pre-Pepto. Yeah, you like to, get mimosa for the recording. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. There's multiple drinks throughout the day.
So was it one of the Jewish bathtubs?
Not one of the Jewish bathtubs. No, it wasn't big enough.
In the next,
you'll learn about the next After Dark. Yeah, that'll be a lot funnier next week.
It's big enough for an 8-year-old, but for me it was kind of embarrassing. But I had to make it work because I was so uncomfortable. So I get to work the next day thinking, okay, I'm gonna make it. It's gonna be fine, even a couple hours. I made it 2.5 hours. I actually told Lewis to drive me to work that morning. He starts a half an hour later than me. Said, you have to drive me. I can't see straight. I am falling asleep. I am sick. I'm going to throw up if I get behind the wheel. He drove me to work. And about 2.5 hours later, I said, hey, listen, I gotta go. I can't handle this anymore. I was sitting in my office over the trash can, and I spent the rest of the day just half dead on the couch trying to sleep. So I missed the episode is the moral of the story.
And I kept texting you the whole next day. So, how was the sleep? I
was trying to be as responsive as possible,
Hey, listen, you were much better than Chris and Mary combined. So, I applaud you.
I still say to myself, well, somebody has to answer.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So all this story taught me was that she prioritizes work over the podcast. So we're going to have
That's what I heard.
I made
it some conversations.
So I learned this thing. I don't know if it's accurate, but it seems to be according to my paycheck, that if a salary manager calls out of work,
Right.
they don't have to get paid for that day. However,
What?
if you are a salary manager and you show up for even an hour, you're still considered having been at work and you get paid.
Oh.
So that
You don't have
is
like sick time?
no. So that's the Jew in me. Okay. That said, I am going to show up to work for as long as I possibly can, as deathly ill as I am, just so I can get paid. And I sure as shit did. And I got my full paycheck.
See, the way my work setup is totally different. I'm encouraged
if you
not
don't
to show
trade
up.
enough, if you don't trade enough Pokemon cards, you're
Yeah.
not going to make any money that day.
Yeah. Wow. So, wow. Very, very, thoughts and prayers to Sarah. That was a very, it's a trauma. I guess that's a trauma. And, we do have an HR department if you do want to seek therapy.
Well,
Yeah.
then Scott said to me, so I have this idea for like a food truck every week. No, thank you.
No, I did. so you all know me. I love to have nicknames. I love to have segments. And what's funny is, pulling back, this is major pulling back the curtain. So after she killed off Jimmy Carter, who, by the way, I'm getting very nervous, still has not died.
I know. He's scheduled to be on at the end of April.
I know.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to produce Jimmy Carter. So
if anybody does a really good Jimmy Carter impersonation, please reach out to us at NNFriendsPodcast@yahoo.com.
I'm getting very nervous. So when Sarah kills off Jimmy Carter, I have this idea. I'm like, okay, you're going to be the angel of death. And every week you're going to do celebrity death predictions.
To which I replied, great idea, because I really wanted to get past the idea of Super Jew.
Right. Right. Which I asked.
I still have no offense towards. I mean, honestly.
I do.
We just lost
fair.
half of our viewers on Twitch.
We have
So I kept begging Chris, please let me call her Super Jew. Please let me call her Super Jew. And he's like, you can't. That's just too much.
No.
So I'm like, okay, well, Sarah, you're going to be Angel of Death. And every week you have to do predictions of celebrity deaths. And we're going to have Ryan and Chris write this bit for you. So you don't have to think about it, but it's going to be funny things. Anybody acting with Alec Baldwin.
That's what I came up with. And then you were like,
that was a good one.
Maybe not. Yeah, I know. Yeah. He's going to call you Super Jew, but he won't let me just do an Alec Baldwin joke.
So we're all excited about this. We're all really excited about this. Well, as we get closer to the episode, I'm thinking, man, this is so I contact and just I do not collaborate with Ryan on his Jersey Man, Florida Man, except for this one. And he was already kind of gonna do the obituaries, but I'm like, you have to call her the Angel of Death. That's what I need you to call her, the Angel of Death. That was the plan. So as this episode is playing out, this last episode, we talk about the food truck so much. And so when the segment finally comes, I'm like, you know what? I think this is going to be a really dark segment, and I only see it lasting about a week or two. So then it was just the food truck thing. And so here we are. I don't know why I started talking about this. This is why I don't drink on a podcast.
I know. I'm sorry if you had to listen to Scott for the last 15 minutes talk about something that he could have wrapped up in probably about 15 seconds.
That could have been an email.
I'm going to continue talking so Scott doesn't. So that's the story on the food truck. Hopefully it was very graphic for you guys. Hopefully your stomachs are churning. Hopefully you just envision her. Please send your thoughts and prayers to her. She's still recovering from this trauma. We help her.
But are you? But hold on. But are you ready for bikini season? From the stomach virus.
You won't catch me dead in a bikini anyways.
Oh. Okay.
But yes, the answer for the podcast, yes, absolutely.
You're learning. So
yes. Hashtag content.
So as we help Sarah heal through her trauma of the foodborne illness from the empanada, we actually did something fun. Not we as in me. It was Sarah and Scott had a really, really, really cool interview with Mark Christopher Lawrence. Now, who is Mark Christopher Lawrence, you might ask? Google him. Once you see his face, you're like, oh, I know that guy. He was. I can't put a a name to the face or a face to the name, whatever that thing is, but I know that guy from somewhere. And then when you check him out on IMDb, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's that guy. He was he's most known for the boss on the show Chuck. He starred in something like 87 out of the 91 episodes. He is a super cool guy, super nice guy. And Scott and Sarah had a chance to sit down and have an interview with him. You guys are about to hear that. Now, pulling back the curtain, I actually did partake in the interview. I was able to
you were
listen.
The savior.
I was able to listen to the interview on my way to the Poconos, which if you didn't hear the Poconos story, you'll hear it in one of these episodes coming up. If you didn't hear it already, I don't know when this is going to air.
Yeah,
so
you're going to hear the Poconos story in the next episode.
There we go. So I was on the way to the Poconos in the Zoom room on Discord, messaging Scott and Sarah potential questions to ask. I do like picking these people's brains, so it was really fun for me to shoot them some of the questions. Without any further ado, here is our interview with Mark Christopher Lawrence. There are 3 things that I hate in life: taxes, nausea, and booking vacations. The first 2 I'm stuck with, but for the third, I use Sandpiper Vacations. Sandpiper Vacations is a small business that is LGBTQ+ owned and operated with travel advisors all over the country. Whether it's a cruise, a trip to a theme park, or an all-inclusive resort, Sandpiper has you covered. Oh, and I forgot to mention, it's free. Why book a vacation when you can have someone else do it for you? That's like choosing to take the stairs in a building that has an elevator. Leave the headaches of booking a vacation to someone else. Get your quote today at www.sandpipervacations.com and tell them that the No New Friends podcast sent you.
Welcome back to the No New Friends podcast. We are very excited that we've got another special guest in here with us. Again, so many impressive credits. Character actor, stand-up comedian. He's been in popular films like Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Tales from the Hood, Planet of the Apes, Lost Treasure. Also a bunch of TV appearances, Heroes, My Name is Earl, Crossing Jordan, Dharma and Greg, Malcolm in the Middle, but most well known for his role as Big Mike on the NBC series Chuck. We've got Mark Christopher Lawrence with us. How are you today, Mark?
Well, thank you.
So, an extremely impressive career that spanned over years and years. Where did it all start for you? How did you get into the gig of comedy and acting?
Started in high school. My 10th grade English teacher got me involved in speech and debate. She introduced me to a guy who got me involved in stand-up. I ended up at USC on a debate scholarship. Took a voice class for speaking and centering, and I was a junior already. And got talked into auditioning for the acting program at SC and got in and started working professionally the same year.
Wow. You've opened for some major acts. Sinbad, Jeff Foxworthy, Jerry Seinfeld, Rodney Dangerfield. How was it working with those legends in comedy?
I think probably the most epic one was Dangerfield, working with Dangerfield. I was working actually for Bob Zaney. He used to book Dangerfield's club in Vegas. It was called Rodney's Place. It was at the old El Rancho Hotel. And I was working there, and Rodney got sued by Caesar's Palace because he missed a weekend of shows.
Oh.
And he countersued and won. And that night, I get to the showroom, and the showroom runner, Dutch was his name, said he was like the last bastion of mafioso Vegas. He says, "Hey, listen, I sent all those other hacks home." He says, "So it's just going to be you do 30 minutes and you introduce Rodney." I said, "Okay, what should I say?" He said, "It's Rodney frickin' Dangerfield. Say his name."
Right. Was that a lot of pressure having to open for these guys, or is it obviously it's easier to open?
I was too young to understand pressure. I was in my 20s. In your 20s, you got no fear. It's like when you get to be my age now, it's like there's no way I would ride in the back of a moving truck.
Right.
In my 20s, I could fall off that truck, but wouldn't scrape my face because I'd get my hands down.
Yeah, it's so funny what we used to do, back when we were younger. Drinking out of a hose, no big deal. Sitting in the back of a truck, no big deal. Now we're all in car seats as adults to be safe in a bubble.
it's life is just funny that way. But back to your question, Rodney was fun to work with and hang out with. I literally hung out with him until the sun came up.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
and then when I worked with Sinbad, it was for a fundraiser. It was me, Henry Cho, Sinbad, and Bill Engvall,
Oh, wow.
and we're at Rupp Arena in Kentucky. There's 10,000 people there, and I go up, have a great set. Cho goes up, has a great set. Sinbad goes up, has him turn the lights on so he could see the audience. Does like 5 or 10 minutes of crowd work with the audience that was hysterical, and then got into his act and took it up a whole nother notch. And then Bill came up and started talking about Dancing with the Stars and was walking people a whole row at a time. and and I understood why Bill was closing the show was because it was Kentucky and they figured that was his crowd.
Sure.
But they wanted to see, here's your sign. They didn't want to hear him talking about Dancing with the Stars.
Right. That's funny. Okay, so you spent some time with Sinbad. Have you ever heard of the Mandela effect, where we remember something but it didn't actually happen? So there's these conspiracy theories that Sinbad was in a movie called Shazam, where he played a genie, but that movie doesn't exist anywhere. And I'm hoping that maybe you could shed some light. Do you remember him doing a movie?
That was Shaq.
Yes, it was Shaq. But there are pictures. I mean, I remember seeing Sinbad with this purple cover in his arms, and it's this weird phenomenon where people remember that he was in this movie called Shazam, but he wasn't. Huh. It's nowhere.
Yeah, no, that was Shaq. Was it Shazam? Is that what was it called? Shazam?
Was it Shazam or Kazam? I think Shaq was in Kazam.
Kazam.
Yeah, and there is a Shazam, but has nothing to do with Sinbad.
With Zach Levi, who was on Chuck. Yeah.
And you got to work with him on Chuck. 87 episodes you were in. How was that? What was that like? And what was the call like when you got the call that you got that role?
It was just okay. It was a year where I was up for 5 pilots, and that audition was just for a guest star, possibly recurring. So I didn't really put any time into the audition beforehand until the night before, and then because I was trying to get one of those series regular roles. And then auditioned for Chuck, and they said thank you, and I went home, and I get a call saying I didn't get any of the pilots that I was up for that I tested for, and then get a call saying, hey, so you booked this thing on Chuck, it's possibly recurring, it's going to be high and by, just a real small part. I thought, okay, so I go and shoot the pilot. And then June rolls around and the series gets picked up. And I actually read for the character of Harry Tang. And so they said, by the way, you're going to be Big Mike, which is the character they wrote for you. You will, it'll probably be just high and by kind of thing. And about halfway through, it's like the thing was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, I told my agents, I said, hey, this is not a series. This is not a high and by role. I said, tell them I'm not coming back for this money.
All right.
And they, did the right thing and made me a series regular.
Oh, good. That's important. Do you have are there any roles that you regret turning down? Anything come up that? No.
I've really only turned down 2 things my whole career, and they both were cigarette ads aimed at kids.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And one was in Germany, and I think the other one was in Ireland, and it was right on the heels of the movie Fear of a Black Hat, and they wanted me to play a rapper. And some of my agents said, "Nah," I said, I said, grown-ups aren't listening to this stuff. I said, so this is about selling cigarettes to kids, and I'd pass.
Yeah, kudos to you for making that call, because there may or may not be a lot of people in that position who are like, oh, I just want the work. I'm going to do it whether I believe it or not. So kudos to you. It speaks volume for your character.
Well, it's funny. One of my agents said, they're going to get somebody to do it anyway. We might as well go get the money. And I was like, well, the money is not that important to me. It's like if I'm hooking kids on cigarettes, I said I'd rather not have that on my conscience.
Right. No, for sure. Who have you worked with in your career that had the biggest impact on you personally and professionally?
Barry Shabaka Henley.
Okay.
He's on iHeart Abishola. We met in '87 at the Los Angeles Theater Center. He was doing a play there. I was doing a different play. And we became friends. One night, I would bring my clippers and shave my head. And one night he asked me, he says, "Hey, we're in the dressing room. It's like it's intermission of his show." He goes, "Hey, do you have your clippers?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You mind shaving my head for me?" I was like, "Okay." So I shaved his head in the middle of his show.
Wow.
And then I watched the monitor. He goes out and he's doing all this stuff. And Madge Sinclair is working with them. And she's busy, you know, doing her actor stuff on stage. And she looks at him and then she turns and she does a double take. She notices his head is shaved. And he and I have been friends ever since, like brothers.
Oh, that's awesome. Having experience in so many different movies, television shows, what's the best advice that you have either gotten or given to aspiring actors?
I think the best advice I got was on Terminator 2, and it was from Earl Bowen. God rest his soul. He passed away, I think, last week or so.
Oh,
And he told me, he says, "Mark, he says, get a bank account way across town. He says, don't take the ATM card. He says, just get like a savings account and just keep it way across town. He says, take 10% of everything you make and stick it in that account." He says, and before you know it, there's a nice little nest egg in there. He says, and when somebody presents you with a job that's beneath you or they're trying to pay you less than you need to, you have some FU money in the bank.
right.
And that was the best advice that I ever got.
So do you go back and watch the shows or the movies that you've been in and look back and go, oh, I could have done that better, or that was really good, that's some of my best work? Or do you stay away from watching yourself?
I always watch it when it comes out, and it's hard for me not to pick myself apart. And then there's a couple of movies that I've gone back to watch, and one of them in particular, which I think is probably the most fun I've ever had on set, was Fear of a Black Hat.
Okay.
And so I watched that and just laugh. I was just like, okay, I wasn't a good actor at the time, but this is crazy funny. And we were so irreverent, and we made fun of so many different rappers, and it was a good time, and it still holds up today.
With all the jobs that you've had and all the everything that you've done, what's your favorite aspect? Is it the relationship with the cast, or is it making people laugh? What kind of gets you up in the morning to go to work?
Well, I think the thing that makes you want to continue to do it is that you get to be somebody else.
Okay.
You get to create this character that hopefully affects people.
Sure.
One thing I like about stage is that you affect them in real time. So like if you're doing a play, you got people laughing or crying right now, as opposed to waiting to see if the editor does you a good turn and you have an effect on them, in TV and film. So it's just the creating is what I like most. And then everything else is a byproduct of the creating. You meeting new friends, and some of them become lifelong friends, and some of them, you probably never talk to again.
Sure.
And not out of decision to not to. It's just people have different lives.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that. You talk about the excitement of being someone else. Do you have a dream role? Or someone or something that you want to play, whether historical or fictional?
I don't have a quote unquote dream role. I think I'd like to play something really dark.
Oh, okay.
Because people see me as funny.
Okay.
And I realize I'm funny, and comedy comes easy to me, but I think I'm a better dramatic actor than I am a comedic actor, because I work harder at digging around in the ugly stuff to make a dramatic role work.
Right.
And I think for me, it's like I would want to play a really dark character. Like if you look at Lithgow in his arc on Dexter,
right.
for example.
Yes.
When you
Great
first
example.
meet him, he's this nice guy. And then the next time you see that lady, she's bleeding out in her tub.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
So it's like, so I want to play something like that. It's like, I mean, there's a couple of characters that I've looked up online that, one of them we started really considering writing a piece about. And then we found out somebody had already done it and it didn't do well. And I'm thinking, maybe it was their execution. Maybe we should probably revisit it. So I may revisit that.
Gotcha. It's funny that you say that, because there's a lot of comedy, or a lot of actors who have ended up in comedic roles that prefer the drama. Going back, Robert Reed in the Brady Bunch. He was a dramatic, serious actor, and then he's playing America's Dad forever. So it's because I didn't picture that from you, but as you started talking about it, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. You don't want to just be known for your comedy. You want to be able to show that depth. So I hope that happens for you. That'd be amazing to see.
I've had a couple projects over the past year that I'm playing a dramatic role, but they allow me to do a little funny in them. Like I did a thing for Tyler Perry in 2020 that is pretty much a dramatic role, but they hired me because they knew that I could bring some funny to it.
Sure.
And so yeah, I hope it happens too. It's like I may have to produce it myself, but we'll do what we do.
There you go. I mean, that's what look. Lin-Manuel Miranda started his career by not being able to be cast in certain roles, so he wrote In the Heights, and look where he is now. Have you seen an example of a comedian that's kind of stepped out of their comfort zone to take on that dramatic role that kind of inspires you to do that?
Well, I don't know that I'm inspired by that, but the first one that comes to mind is Richard Belzer, who passed away this week. He, he was a really funny comedian, and he started doing that show for 20 years as a very heavy kind of cop.
Right.
So he comes to mind. But then the flip side of that is Leslie Nielsen, who started his career as the heavy in everything that he was in. He was the bad guy.
Sure.
And then along came, what was it? Naked Gun.
Oh, Naked Gun. Yeah. Leslie.
Naked Gun, where he became really funny. And he started getting all these funny roles. Robert De Niro.
Oh yeah, another one. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's like his. You analyze this, that it sort of reinvented him, even though he's still playing a gangster, but it was hilarious.
Are you at all concerned though? Like, you've been known for comedy. What that could do moving forward? Or now is it too dark and you can't get back into comedy? Or are you okay with that?
No, because I'm doing stand up. So even if I play a role that's really dark, I still got the stand up, and I still have this body of funny work. It's not like anybody can say, well, he's not funny, he's always a dramatic guy. That's not the case.
What's the favorite role? Your favorite role that you've ever had?
It's got to be Tone Deaf in Fear of a Black Hat.
Okay.
I mean, it's really stupid, and it's a rap Spinal Tap. It was just ridiculously funny and irreverent, and like I said, I just watch it and laugh.
Right. What are you working on now? I know you've got a new television show coming up, Fragment Oblivion on pureflix.com.
On PureFlix.
Yeah. What's that all about?
It's a mini series. It's a thriller.
Okay.
That would happen if what would happen if billions of people just disappeared from the earth.
Oh, okay.
The story uses like the reality of our last few years here. It's based in past, present, and future. And each of the main characters have their own story of what happens to them after these people disappear, after their loved ones disappear, after, they call it the blink. After the blink happens, then, how do these characters survive? And my character is a detective, and he's loses his family, disappears his wife and his daughter. And so he's like, trying to figure out what happened. What is the blink? What is, this thing that left me so lonely?
Right.
And in his search for answers, he just comes to grips with himself and how he probably needs to start changing his life to live his life in a certain way. And and it's a 6-episode miniseries. And I guess if people go and watch it and love it, then hopefully PureFlix will give us more episodes. But right now it's just a miniseries, and I would say if you watch it and love it, write some comments, to PureFlix and say, hey, we want to see more of this. For me personally, it's like it was one of those productions where they didn't have a lot of money, so there were stunts involved. Mm-hmm. So I had to work with a trainer to get myself physically ready to do these stunts.
Oh, wow.
And, these fighting scenes and all that, and really had a great time doing that. And then, get there and do the project, and it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, that sounds really, really interesting. Kind of like a sci-fi. That's right up. Sarah's like our resident nerd. She loves everything sci-fi and all that.
I was going to say it sounds very like apocalyptic, almost Marvel-esque in a way. But that sounds awesome.
Without the superheroes.
Right.
Yeah, most definitely. But that's still, I mean, I love true crime. So I could sit down and watch a detective, show, movie, anything, any time of the day.
So Pure Flix, that it's streaming. How have you found that over the last 10 years has streaming opportunities changed your career trajectory at any? I said open up more doors for more projects instead of going the traditional network route or traditional theater route.
I don't know that it's opened up more doors. I mean, it kept me afloat when things were slow.
Sure.
It's like all of a sudden here were some opportunities that came my way that some of them were just offers and I'd have to jump through the hoops, which was great. I think the downside of it is that most of the time the streaming stuff it doesn't pay the way network and major motion pictures pay. So you got to do 2 or 3 or 4 of them to make your money.
Sure.
So that's the biggest change is that people will get you on the cheap if they can. But I think that it's great that there are more opportunities,
right,
for people to work and without being selfish. It's like I'd rather see a bunch of my friends working, even if I'm not.
Right.
It's nice to see people work when especially when we all have struggles from time to time.
You hear a lot of negative stories in Hollywood with the pressure and negative influences. Being in the huge amount of projects that you've been in, and I admire how much of a positive person you are. What's the secret to staying so positive with all those pressures and all the quote unquote negativity or peer pressure or whatever that surrounds Hollywood?
Well, I think for me, it's about, surrounding myself with people that are grounded, people like most of my closest friends are not in the industry.
Okay.
I have a few that are tight friends that we've been friends for years and years and years. But, the ones that I see mostly every day or talk to every day are not in the industry. And, they could care less that I'm on TV. They just want me to be happy.
Sure.
It's like I have a tight circle of friends that, some of them are military, some of them are educators, tech people. And we all just kind of hold each other up and accountable. And I think that's important to have, a core group of people around you that will tell you the truth, as opposed to having a bunch of people around you who are just trying to use you to get into the industry or whatever.
Right.
And so that's what keeps me grounded and it helps to have a mother that prays every morning with a group of people.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So one of my co-hosts is not here, and he would kill me if I did not ask this question. Okay. And you are more than welcome to not answer the question. It's a silly question. Okay. Yep. But we sit at home and we watch actors perform. We watch television shows, and we often wonder, some of us do, who's the smelliest actor? Who smells good? Who smells bad? Do you, do you have any memories of someone smelling really good or really bad that you could share with us?
I don't think I have any experiences with a funky actor.
Okay.
Thank goodness. Because I have no filter. And but there are actors that smell good,
okay.
Ryan McPartland, on Chuck, he come to set. He's got some good smelling cologne, and he's a pretty man.
So, thank you for answering that. I appreciate it. We get funny answers from every celebrity interview that we've done. Now, you've got some stand-up shows coming up. One in particular in San Diego on March 16th at the Mic Drop Comedy Club. Website
it's a clean show.
It's a clean show. Yeah, you are a clean performer, which there's so many stand-up comedians that feel like they need to F this, F that, and it gets distracting. And kudos to you for keeping it clean.
Well, I started in 11th grade, so I couldn't cuss because I still lived in my mother's house.
Right.
One of her friends would have saw it. Go, girl, you need to go talk to that Mark Christopher. He's cussing and can on. And then bring him down to the church. We can lay hands on him.
So that's
I can appreciate any comedy I can watch around my children.
right.
Put it that way.
Yeah, no, for
and
sure.
that too. It's like I can work in a club. I was working with Robin Harris years ago, and Black Comedy Act Theater in LA was like the place to be on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And Robin had me open for him sometimes, like at a show in a park on a Saturday.
Oh, wow.
And he was doing the exact same act, which was filthy the night before, squeaky clean in the park.
Wow.
And he said to me, he says, Mark, always write clean. You can work anywhere.
Yes. Yep. I have a lot of friends that are nationally touring comedians, and they tell me that all the time. Because I used to book them at the go-kart center that I used to work at, and they would get jobs with us because we were a family place. And they told me that all the time. If you can do a clean show, your opportunities are a lot more. There's a lot more opportunities for you.
Yeah, I do a lot of churches. I mean, I can go squeaky clean.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. I've never seen a comedy show at a church, but I feel like that's on my bucket list now, just to see how it goes. Where can our listeners find you? How can they follow you?
Probably the best thing to do, just go to my website, markchristopherlawrence.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see all my buttons for social media. I'm easy to find. Google Mark Christopher Lawrence. You can find me. I'm easy.
It's a good looking website. I spent some time on there today. That website is sharp, and I'm looking at our nonsense.
I think it's time to do something different, though. I think it's time to make a little change to it.
Well, Mark Christopher Lawrence, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and spending some time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
You're listening to the No New Friends podcast. We'll be back.
Hey, you want to join a cult? Well, this might be your lucky day. For just $2 a month and a simple blood oath, you can join our clubhouse and become a friend with benefits. In addition to the amazing feeling of donating to the poor, you will have access to Patreon exclusive content, live shows, and maybe even a behind-the-scenes look at my secret stash. To get started, head on over to NoNewFriendsPodcast.com and hit join our clubhouse. Can't wait to see you at the initiation ceremony. Oh, and in the chat during our live shows, of course.
Thank you for listening. If you listened this far, thank you so much. This was our first ever episode. Hope you guys like it. We have so much planned for this No New Friends After Dark. If you are listening to this and didn't know we stream this, we do stream No New Friends After Dark on Wednesday nights after we record our podcast. So you can, if you go to NNF Podcast on Twitch, you can subscribe, you can follow. Subscribe, that'd be awesome. But if you just following's free. Turn on notifications. You'll get that notification.
Subscribing is free. You just
subscribing is free if you have Amazon Prime.
Correct.
So if you pay for Amazon Prime, subscribing is free. I wasn't going to go into that spiel, but here we are.
Sorry, this is why I don't drink and podcast.
I know, and so the other reason why Scott doesn't drink and podcast is so he doesn't say this is why I don't drink and podcast 16 times.
I was going to say now that's a drinking game.
Yes. Drinking for Sarah and I are steroids. Drinking for Scott is like a beta blocker. I don't know. So we're also under the age of 30. So I guess that helps. So again, thank you to our listeners for listening. That was kind of weird. And a special thank you to Sandpiper Vacations, who is sponsoring this episode. They help keep the show going. You listeners keep wow, this is why I don't host. You listeners keep help the show going. Thank you for listening /watching /brailing. If you're deaf, maybe this is out in Braille and you're reading and you're feeling this right now. Maybe you're feeling this.
Maybe Nick from Sandpiper Vacation is a Braille interpreter.
I'm gonna have to reach out to him. I will get back to you on that.
Did you say deaf though?
Yeah, deaf is the one where you can't.
That's sign language. You can't hear.
Oh, For all our blind listeners out there, if you're brailing this, you're welcome.
All right, you're going to do an outro to the end of the show. You have to do like Chris's final thoughts or something. I don't know.
Oh, look at Sarah. You see this Scott just pawning things on me? Like I didn't just like
no pressure, but come up with a whole new thing.
Yeah, here. I just thought of a segment for you. Come up off the top of your head with Chris's final thoughts. Like I didn't just go on for 3 minutes doing an outro. And he's like, hey, you got an outro for us? What was that? What did I just do, Sarah? Did I not just do an outro? Did I just say thank you to 100 people? Even to the blind?
Can I plead the fifth now?
I just thanked the blind, Scott. What other outro do you need? All right, hope you enjoyed that interview. If you like that, there's more to come. Something Scott wishes he could do. So we are going to be back here again next week, relatively same time. As fast as Scott can edit this thing is as fast as we're going to put it out. The longer I talk right now, the more it prolongs the putting out of this episode. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. We will see you next week.
No New Friends After Dark has been brought to you by Sandpiper Vacations. SandpiperVacations.com. Just check out our website, NoNewFriendsPodcast.com. Become a friend with benefits. Check out our sweet merch and so much more. This has been a No New Friends Entertainment LLC production.